All right, Randy, how are you doing today?
Hey, great to be on with you.
Beautiful Miami, huh? Is what I hear. Not in dreary Columbus, Ohio.
It's very beautiful today too. Looking out the window, it's this is the time of year when it's perfect to live in Miami.
Well, I'm sure you know this that there's like a flow of Ohioans to Florida. There's like a line of people just like once you hit 60 and you're in Ohio, you move to Florida, and that's just like what happens somehow. So, well,
That line comes from everywhere. I
yes,
mean,
yes.
we are growing the population. Everybody is trying to get here.
It's all no income taxes, right? And I was just down there and I was talking to my cousin about that, and he's like, yeah, it's not all perfect, it's not all just free money. But Randy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do currently, and then I'd like to go back. I always find it fun to hear about the history of how you got to where you are. So I think that'd be a good story for us to hear.
Well, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I've been called the entrepreneur's entrepreneur. I've been called the entrepreneur whisperer.
All
I've been
right.
called a lot of nasty things, many things, but those among many. So I work a lot with entrepreneurs. I have a coaching program. I
Okay.
consult with companies. I do best when I'm working with entrepreneurial companies
Mhm.
or entrepreneurial people. I work with a lot of coaches and speakers and authors, consultants, because I do all those things. I've
Mhm.
written 15, just finishing my 16th book now. And because I write books, people want to hear from the author. So I've been a professional speaker since 91.
You were
But
you were doing it way before it was the cool thing to do.
yeah, yeah.
I get all these emails, hey, we'll write your book for you, and then we'll teach you how to get paid speaking gigs. And I'm like, I'm running my business. Like, this seems like a thing off to the side.
Yeah, as an author, when people want to write a book, it's like I don't even know how to co-author a book. Like I've got some really great colleagues who have written great books, and they're like, "Hey, we should collaborate and do a book together." I'm like, I don't know how that would work.
Yeah.
I'm going to write chapters 1, 3, 5, and 7. You're going to do 2, 4, 6. How does it stay congruent? So, and for me, it's just one of the things I discovered: people never throw away books.
Mm, true. Yeah.
They throw away cassette tapes, DVD tapes, 8-track tapes, all those albums, from back in the day. They have no problems, throwing those away. But books, so when you put your name on a book, you really hope it's not going to come back and embarrass you down the road.
Yeah, that's the pitch, right? They'll go, "Well, you don't even have to write the book." And it's like sort of insulting because I think that I am like a competent writer, so it's like, "No, I can write a book. Like I know how to write. You guys don't need to come in and like AI generate me a book, which is probably what they do now, but years
Yeah.
ago it was just like, somebody who's just batches out business content. Oh yeah, I know what to write here.
Yeah, for me, it's not almost insulting. It's just insulting.
Yeah. So how did you get this start in entrepreneurship? You're the entrepreneur's entrepreneur is what I just heard. So like, where did that all begin? Because clearly you've been doing this for a long time, and there had to be kind of a spark, a beginning to it.
I was broke. I was raised in a poor family, single mom, raised 3 kids by herself. So you wanted stuff. You rake leaves, you shoveled snow, you delivered newspapers, you babysat, you did whatever. So I did all that stuff.
Hmm.
And I actually made my way through middle school selling dope. So that was like my first big entrepreneurial
Where
experience.
was your hometown?
Madison, Wisconsin.
All right. Yeah. Well, we're Columbus, Ohio people, so we know Madison from the collegiate connection.
Sure. Sure.
So
Yeah. So
you did wind up paying for that streak, correct? That dope selling and kind of just misbehaving, right?
yeah, I kind of made some poor choices as I was a teenage alcoholic, teenage drug addict. So I was actually in jail for burglary and armed robbery
Wow.
at
Okay.
15 years old.
Wow. I thought you were gonna say, I got caught with a dime bag and I went to jail. But so you did really get seriously mixed up with a crowd who was
Yeah.
not just messing around. They were pretty seriously doing stuff.
Yeah. When you're under the throes of an addiction, you have no rational, logical, cognitive skill, decision making. You just don't.
So that was a long time ago. But what do you remember about that period of your life? Maybe you try not to remember a whole lot about that period of your life, but like, where did you think life was going to go for you? Were you just thinking like, hey, I gotta, make it another couple days, make it a week? I mean, looking back, like, how do you reflect on that?
There's quite a story there. You sit in your cell, you sit on the cot, there's a metal door, there's a little tiny glass window with the wires through, the
Yep, yep,
anti-break window, whatever.
yep.
And there's a clock out in the hallway. So I'm just sitting on my cot watching tick, tick, tick every day, because I'm there. I was probably there for 5 or 6 weeks before it came to trial.
Hmm.
And one day there's some jangling keys and the door opens and this guy who I don't know walks in. And he's a school teacher. He's the father of my best friend David. He dates this girl, and this girl, her dad, she at dinner, she's saying, "Dad, you got to go help Randy. He's in jail. Everybody forgot about him. He's going to die there." So he comes in to see me,
Mm,
and he tells his name was Baxter, and he said, "You don't belong here. You're capable of great things." I'm like, basically, I told him he was full of shit.
mm,
He didn't know he was talking to.
mm,
He should have just slapped me into the next week, but he didn't. And he told me, "No, I talked to your teachers before I came here. They
mm,
tell me you're really smart.
mm,
They say you skip school for 3 weeks straight, and you show up one day and there's a test and you can ace the test. They
mm,
tell me your reading comprehension skill is higher than college level." I didn't know it then. I was on the spectrum, right?
mm,
There was no spectrum there, right? Autism wasn't even a diagnosis till the mid 80s, I think.
mhm,
I was just weird,
mm.
From my mom, my teacher, they're like, he's a weird kid.
Yeah.
Well, so anyway, so he told me this and he said, you're capable of great things. And you know how this goes. If Because I wanted to believe him, I believed him.
Mm,
And because I believed him, it was true.
yeah.
And if I wouldn't have believed him, it wouldn't have been true, right? But
Yeah.
I wanted to believe him, so I did. And so that gave me I had a wonderful gentleman who was the public defender who had taken my case, and people who cared about me and spoke for me and offered a job if I could get out on probation and things like that. And then Baxter offered that they were doing like a pilot program for what was called the School Without Walls. So if you wanted to be an electrician, you would go and work with an electrical contractor.
Mm,
If you wanted to be a plumber, you'd go work with a plumber. So they had stuff like that, and kids could even teach classes if they created a course outline and got a teacher facilitator and everything.
it was pretty
And
progressive, I'm assuming, for the time
very
period.
progressive. Madison, Wisconsin, very progressive place, college town,
Hmm.
you know, mostly, students there, very, very liberal, very progressive. So, and I had a judge who thought, you know what, let's give this kid another chance. And if he takes it, he takes it.
Mm,
And so, yeah, I'd love to say I snapped my fingers and then I was a multimillionaire and successful. Obviously, it didn't work out that way that quick, but I did take it as, hey, I have another chance, and I I went after it.
mm. So that period of time is that like a high school equivalent, essentially?
Yeah, it was a experimental high school. And because I was in the eighth grade, I think, when I was arrested, and then they expelled me. And so then I got in Baxter's experimental school. But I didn't finish because I just wanted to work more. Just, I never fit in society. I didn't fit in with my family, even, So I told my mother, I want my own place. I'm going to get my own apartment. And she's like, all right, go ahead, figuring I'd be back in like 10 minutes because I
Mm,
was 15 years old.
mm,
But I never went back. I got an
mm.
apartment, I got a job. I learned if you don't pay the light bill, they don't care. They just turn off the lights. If you
Yep.
don't pay the, phone bill, they just disconnect it. The landlord will put a 3-day eviction on your door if you don't pay. So I learned, like, okay, this is what I got to survive in the real world.
Growing up fast.
Yeah, so I didn't finish the schooling, but I just went out and was in the world, making my way.
Mm. Okay, so how does your transition from you're kind of working odd jobs? Is that how you describe that at that point in time?
I started as a dishwasher at a pancake house, and then was a cook, and then a waiter, and a host, and then a manager trainee, and an assistant manager. And then one day, when I was 17, I became a restaurant manager
Wow. Wow.
because I had lied about my age, because they had opened a Red Lobster in Madison, and I wanted to be a waiter, but
Mm-hmm.
you had to be 18 because they served alcohol.
Okay.
And so I was 16, but I always looked, I could grow a pretty good mustache at
Okay.
16.
All right.
So I looked older. So I lied about my age to get the Red Lobster waiter job. And then the place where I was cooking, Howard Johnson, is where they had made me a manager trainee and everything. And then at 17, they made me a manager
So you
because
just
I was the good, loyal company man, because now I had taken all the same OCD behavior I had done, to the dark side of the force, and now I was applying it toward, being a company man and getting promoted. And one day I would be a restaurant manager, and I wear a tie and carry a big ring of keys and be really important. So that was my dream. That was just, at that age of my life, that's the biggest dream I could imagine, was being a restaurant manager for Howard Johnson's.
so you make it before you're even really technically able to touch the alcohol. And they don't know that. They thought you were 19 probably by then.
Yeah, they thought I was 19
Yeah.
when they made me manager. Yeah.
Okay, so then you ride off into the sunset and you're a restaurant manager the whole rest of your life, right?
So so now I've got my dream, and I realize this isn't the American dream. This is the American nightmare.
Yeah.
I got to be in business for myself. And along the way, I
Can I just
got,
stop you there? So,
uh-huh.
what do you think it was that it clicked where you went, "Oh, this is like a good job. This is a job that, many people would be like, "Oh, you're a manager of a restaurant. Like, it's pretty good. You can earn a living there." Um, what do you think it was that you went, "Oh, this isn't good enough. I need to go into business for myself." Because those are two
Because
different
I
things.
knew I knew that I had waiters and waitresses who made more than I did,
Oh.
and they worked 40 hours a week, and I
Mm,
was on straight salary, and I was working 80 and 90 hours a week.
mm.
And I knew, because I used to be a waiter, and I knew the kind of money. I was a good waiter. I knew, man, sell them some appetizers, sell them some drinks, sell them some desserts. Man, that check is going to be big. They're going to tip you 15-20% of that. I made good money. And the title buys you over for a while, but after a little bit, you're like, fuck the title.
Yeah.
I need to make money.
Yep.
And so, um, and right around that time, so I said, okay, I'm gonna open my own restaurant. I'm gonna save up my money, and that'll be
Oh,
the thing.
okay. All right.
So then my assistant manager and I lease a restaurant. I quit as
Hey,
manager to.
previously functioning, or it's not? It's just like
It
vacant. It's
was
not functioning.
previously functioning.
Okay.
And so we go in on that, and he stays and keeps his assistant manager salary, because at least one of us was getting a paycheck then.
Mhm.
and we try to do restaurant and do restaurant consulting.
Ah, you
Why,
straight to the yeah.
yeah, right. And he calls me one night and he says, "Hey, can you come over to the house? There's a guy coming over, and I want you here to protect me." Like, protect you? Protect you for what? You got four huge dogs.
Mm,
He says, "Well, I was filling up my car with gas, and this guy on the other side of the pump starts talking to me about making money. And so he's coming over to the house to talk about making money on Saturday. And I want you there to protect me because I think it's Amway."
mm.
I said, "Amway? What's Amway?" He says, "You know that thing where they draw the circles about making money?" Like, "Jimmy, I don't know anything about circles. I don't know anything about Amway.
Yeah.
But if it's about making money, we ain't making any.
Yeah,
So
right.
let's see what this guy has to say." So I go to their house there that Saturday afternoon. The guy gets a yellow legal pad. He gets a red pen. He draws a circle at the top and he writes "you" in the circle. Um, so Jimmy and I are looking at each other. And then he puts five circles under the one. And you get five people and you get overrides. And then the five get five. There's 25. I'm telling you, Alexander, I was hallucinating. I had never seen leverage.
Mm.
I traded hours for money. Everyone I know trades hours for money. Everyone in my family. You could trace it back to the Mayflower, I'm sure, and every person in my family traded hours for money. And when I saw leverage, I was like hallucinating.
It was like just an
So
unlock that you went,
it, wa-
oh.
it was epiphany, a total epiphany.
Mm.
So of course I joined on the spot, and
So not only
not
are you interested in the concept, you're interested in his concept.
yeah. So I joined. Now I didn't make any money with Amway, but they seem to have done pretty good without me since they do like 8 billion, 9 billion, 10 billion a year.
Yeah, was isn't it like one of the largest privately held corporations in the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but I discovered direct selling then,
Mm.
leverage sales, So I did join other companies along the way, and I ended up making millions and millions of dollars as a leader in network marketing.
Really?
Yeah. So that led to, doing training, and that led to writing my first book was about network marketing. And it just kind of, then I started consulting with companies, and then I was writing more books. And so I started to kind of segue out teaching marketing techniques, teaching copywriting, let's say, direct mail and all that stuff back in the day.
Hmm.
And then I just kind of zeroed in on I loved working with entrepreneurs.
Mm.
And network marketing people aren't all entrepreneurs, right? They're more entrepreneurial,
Hmm.
but still they're entrepreneurial, and that's my jam. Anyone who's willing to take a shot and go after their dreams, I'm all in on that. And so I kind of broadened out my practice over the years, and like I say, became a speaker in '91, and wrote another book, and one thing led to another, and that kind of brought me on the journey to being on this legendary entrepreneur, among other things, podcast.
So talk to me about you said you actually were able to make millions of dollars in network marketing, something that most people who get into that field didn't do. And this probably had to be kind of early in the network marketing like era, right? Like what years are we talking about where you're like
I
starting and
joined.
active?
I joined when I was 20, so I'm 66. So it's 46 years ago when I first joined.
Okay. So what were the companies that were like doing it at that point in time? What were the companies that you ended up actually like sticking on with and having success with?
A company called Agile Enterprises. I
Okay.
made more than $10 million with Agile.
Holy cow. Okay.
That would
All right.
that would be. I would still be there.
What is Agile Enterprises?
They had a product called. It was a line of products, suspension gel technology, where it was nutrients, wellness nutrients, but in gel form,
Okay.
so your body could assimilate it better. And it would still be going to this day. I would have never ever left, but they sold to a venture capitalist who just took all the money out of the company. He bought, basically, he's one of these people like formed a SPAC and then create, so he had a public company, and then he went around and bought these successful companies, selling them this vision of, he would give them stock in the mother company, and they were going to go public they were going to float the stock till it became a unicorn. And he ended up buying and bankrupting like 10 different companies, and that company I was with was one of them.
Interesting. So what's the process to from I sign up with this company to I eventually have made $10 million through this company? I mean that's legit money, and I'm assuming that's years ago. So it's even greater amounts of money in today's dollars.
Yeah, I mean, but it's more recent than you think that I
Okay.
had that level of success. That still, but yeah, when you can, because I got to the point to be $1 million annual earner, right? And I
Mm,
could do that in any legitimate company. I believe I can walk in today, and I could do that if it's a legit company, solid product line. There's a market fit. The comp plan is decent, but for me, it's all, the first questions I always ask are, okay, how do I automate, how do I systematize, and how do I scale?
okay. Automate,
So I
systematize,
look,
and scale.
like what started with with after Amway, I tried this, tried that, tried this, tried that, and then I found this company called Sunrider, which had like Chinese herbs. They're still around today, doing well.
Sunrider.
Yeah. And so the first rank was called supervisor, right? And I thought that, everybody needs to get to this first rank. So I created a training, and I called it Supervisor School. So once a month, I would do it for my team. I'd rent a room at the Marriott or the Holiday Inn or whatever, and people would come, and I'd get up there at the front of the room just in my jeans and sneakers, and I had a whiteboard, and I would be training on, here's how to, invite people to look at a presentation, here's how to follow up, here's, blah blah blah. And I realized that, that was the thing I had kind of learned at Amway. Even though I didn't make a lot of money with them, I realized they had leaders who had systems,
Mm,
right? So if you've known anybody who's followed them, know you had the Bill Britt, group, and you had the Dexter and Bertie, um, Dexter Yeager, and you had Ron Perrier, and these rock star OG distributors. And they had the system, with the tape of the week and the book of the month. And so you subscribed, and you got like 2 cassette tapes to keep you jacked up every week and a month. And they made a lot of their money mining the miners, right? Because
yeah.
they sell those tools.
Mhm.
And I just kind of had the epiphany, like, if I did a system like that, but I didn't make my money on the miners, but just teaching them for free
Mhm.
how to create systems so they can really duplicate. And that's how I made millions of dollars. Became Mr. System. So my first book was about that. It sold more than 1 million copies in 20 some different languages.
Mm.
Uh, I had started as cassettes back then, like a 6 cassette album, how to make at least $100,000 a year in network marketing. That a generic one for people in any company, and that sold more than 1 million units of
Wow.
that.
Wow.
And then I've just, over the years, I kind of broadened out more. And so, because I believe in real estate, I believe in being an information entrepreneur. I saw that, okay, my skill set is I'm good at systematizing things, automating things. I'm good at teaching it. I'm a critical thinker, so I can distill it, put it into the system so people can understand it. And that ultimately led to what I now have, which is called Breakthrough You, which is just a coaching slash accelerator slash networking slash mastermind group.
Mm,
And I have three different levels that I work with people on, and I'm work with all kind of entrepreneurs from all over the world.
mm. So you have this sort of epiphany about systems. You see these other guys who are out there and they're, leaders in these companies. And the thing that they had done differently was they had put systems in place to do this thing, on a repeated basis, not just like I'm going out and hustling. So like
Right.
where did your system begin? It sounds like a little bit of
I
teaching,
say
a little bit of coaching. Maybe
it.
just talk me
Well,
through it.
I created a thing like here is the step by step process. Right. There's basic skills. I like to call them parachute skills.
Okay.
If you learn these parachute skills, you could parachute into any free country on earth and make a living,
Okay.
even if you don't speak the language. You could drop in Japan, you could drop in Germany, anywhere. And if you know how to meet people, how to work a candidate list, how to make compelling invitations, how to use tools to make presentations,
Hmm.
and then how to follow up, you could make a living anywhere in the world, wherever you parachuted in. Because even if you don't speak German, if you meet one bilingual German person and you teach them, they can translate, and or Italian in Italy or whatever. And so I just created, okay, here's the action you take at each step, and here's the tool you take. Because it's all about, if you want to scale, if you want to duplicate, you got to use tools. And this is very true, not just for network marketing, but especially for selling, right? If you have your company and you're working with businesses into branding, right? If your salespeople have a system to follow and they have tools like, okay, we have this video that explains how we handle their social media marketing, and we have this brochure or booklet for that. If you teach them, take this step, use this tool. Step two, take this action, use this tool. Um, that's how I started, was just like building out these. And then I developed tools for that. Like I actually developed a recruiting audio tape
Mm.
that anyone in any company could use called Escape the Rat Race.
Mm.
That became the number one selling cassette tape in the history of network marketing, right? Because people buying them thousands at a time and hundreds of different companies.
Mm.
Uh, and then I had training albums and follow up stuff. So it's really, it's a system. And when you have a system, you can be replicated. If you can be replicated, then you can create residual income.
Mm. So to me, it sounds like just very similar to in a business. You have to be able to replicate yourself on a level below you. If you're CEO and God, I have to do the finance myself. It's like, okay, I just have to replicate my methods in the CFO role, and then the CFO has to replicate their methods in the controller. You just kind of went through. This is pretty simple. Everyone basically at this, whatever it be, Sunride or Agile, has to do the same thing. So if I can just replicate that below me, even at 80 or 90% the level, it's still going to be relatively successful.
Yeah, those three magic questions. How do I automate? How do
Okay.
I systematize? How do I scale?
Mm.
Like what I've been going maniacal on for the last 2 years is AI.
Okay.
Okay, how do I automate? How do I systematize? How do I scale? How do I replace myself with AI? I don't worry about AI replacing me because I've already replaced me with AI. I've created like 4 different AI agents to
Mm.
do functions for me. So I don't have, like, I have a podcast, same as you, right? I've created a agent for my podcast. And so I say, I'm going to have Jimmy Smith on the podcast next week. Please get everything ready.
Hmm.
That's all I have to say. 4.5 seconds later, maybe five, it will say, okay, Jimmy's a great guest for the podcast because he's done this, this, and da. Here's 15 sample questions you could ask Jimmy during the show. Here's 5 possible titles for the show. Here's the YouTube description for the show. Here's the keywords you should use in that. Here's the hook you could use on social media. Here's 5 different social media, blurbs that you could put out. Um, what else is in there? I mean, literally, I put that in that one sentence, and somewhere between 3 to 5 seconds, that's all done. Back in the day, that was 6 hours worth of work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And not all mine. Maybe it was an hour of mine, and maybe my assistant could handle 5 hours of it. But I literally replaced 6 hours of work with 5 seconds of work.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, AI is going to be the most cataclysmic event of your lifetime. Everyone listening, watching right now, it doesn't matter if you're in your 20s, 40s, 60s, or 80s. AI is going to be the most cataclysmic change that takes place in your lifetime. And why is because of what we can, the way we can harness it with things like that.
Mm. Sounds like you were very early on this idea of automation that like if I can get something outside of myself to do this process, I can do more things at the same time. So were you working for multiple network marketing companies at the same time? Was that kind of your idea? Or were you like, I go deep on this one, I get it set up, and then I move on?
I believe when you're working it as a distributor, you can only work one at a time
Okay.
because it's a conflict of interest of them. But as a consultant, I might work with 4 or 5 different companies at the same time.
Got it.
So I could work with a wellness company in Kazakhstan. I could work with a utilities company in the UK. I could work with a wellness company that's headquartered in the US or Mexico or wherever. And I'm just building out, I'm taking my generic systems and I'm building them out specific for them. So I'll help them create a magalog, a recruiting video, a product line video, training videos, training module, like learning platforms with different skill sets. I'm taking my broad-based industry knowledge and I'm applying it in their company for their product line, and not just network marketing companies. I could do it with any company,
Mhm.
but I'll take my expertise and create customized tools for them again, so their team can automate and scale.
Mm. Now, talk to me about network marketing. Like a lot of people, they hear that word and then they go, that's an ugly word. That's a nasty word. You've clearly been super heavily involved in it for a really long time, and you've done extremely well. Not just from actually being the person doing the selling, but also writing books and coaching people up. Having been in the industry so long, like what's your sense of that field and that method of selling now that you've done it for a long time?
It's such a wonderful platform because I believe it's the last bastion of the free enterprise system where the average person can become wealthy.
Okay.
Um, you know, I'm in jail for armed robbery. I'm started as a minimum wage dishwasher. I go out in the world. There was no colleges trying to recruit me.
Hmm.
There were no companies trying to recruit me and say, "Hey, we'll give you a corner office and a health plan and a company car and insurance." There was nobody offering me that. Okay.
Hmm.
I created that. And I was able to do it because of network marketing. Because network marketing didn't care my age, my sex, my gender, my orientation, my IQ. You know what I mean? They just, in network marketing, if you're willing to do the work, you can get the results. Now, why do people make the face that you talk about or have that visceral reaction
It's
when they
a
hear
pyramid scheme,
it's a
Randy.
pyramid scheme? Why do they have that? Because there's a lot of pyramid schemes out there.
Got my pyramid right behind me. The pyramid of
Okay, there you
success.
go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit coin deals out there, MLM crypto scams out there. And then, Bernie Madoff actual Ponzi schemes,
Oh
right?
yeah. That's a
And
crazy.
then
That's
we have,
that's a crazy one. Did you see the 4-part documentary about that?
I did.
Oh,
That
so
was
so good. So like such a
wild.
great story. I mean.
It really was a wild thing. And then you have the governments, which are the original pyramid schemes, and
Hmm.
probably the sleaziest of all. The Social Security Ponzi scheme,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Preaching to the
So
choir on that one.
okay, so But if you're willing to learn the profession and then learn, okay, what is a legitimate company? And you don't, so with a legitimate company, you're not going to make headhunter fees. You don't make money by signing people up. You create volume, which is when products or service get to the end consumer, and then you get override commissions on that.
Hmm.
And that's where the leverage comes in. That's why I went crazy when that guy drew all those circles. Is I'm like, oh my God, you know how many hours I spend washing dishes to earn $300 in a week?
Hmm.
And he's talking about people at that time. This is 46 years ago. There were people making $30,000 a month. Well, that was the craziest shit I had ever heard.
Hmm.
I mean, that was like, and look, I went to a meeting and I met one of those people, and I was like, I just met the richest person I've ever met in my life because they were making like $10,000 a month.
Wow.
My mom knocked on doors selling Avon. That's how she raised three kids. Okay. When
Mm-hmm.
I say we were poor, we were poor. So, but if you're willing to do the work and you're willing to find out, okay, and there's I write about it in my network marketing books for people who want to know how to do it right. You ask yourself, hey, is this a product or service I would buy anyway, even if I wasn't getting a check? If the answer is no, then you shouldn't even work that company. Why
Hmm.
would you?
Hmm.
And then you say, would I buy it anyway, even if I at that price, even if I didn't get a check? And if the answer is yes, well, that's probably a good company for you to work with. You got a product you believe in, you use it personally, you're going to have a strong testimonial about it. And then you can practice leverage because you can, again, I ended with Agile, I ended up building a team of 200,000 people spread across almost 50 countries.
Whoa,
So
200,000. That's crazy.
that's what you call leverage.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and it's funny because like people say, oh, it's a pyramid scheme. Like, you're making money off whatever, the 200,000th person that you bring into this thing. And it's just like, okay, well, if you're an employee at a 200-person company, like, isn't the founder making money off of your labor? Like, isn't the CEO making money off your labor? I mean, that's just like organizational structure that like always kind of, goes to the top. Isn't the low man on the army totem pole benefiting the president? It's like, well, yeah, kind of. Like, you're working
Yeah.
for the commander in chief. Well, yes, I am. I'm going to put my life on the line for the commander in chief. Yeah, like that's how the organization works. So, a little bit of a mismatch, but I'm with you. I think that a lot of it is the predatory kind of tactics. And then when you're forcing people to pay to join and things like that, you got to buy the bundle and then that's your first bundle. I think that's when people have bad experiences and they go, yeah, I got sold this thing and it really wasn't, I lost money doing it.
Yeah, and people say, yeah, but maybe 5% of the people make that big money like you. Okay. What percent of professional baseball players make the big money? What percent of professional basketball players make the big money? What percent of CEOs make the big money? What percent of real estate agents make the big money?
Yeah.
What percent of life insurance salesmen? What percent of daycare center owners? What percent of accountants? Of course, the best of the best who will work their way to the top will do the best. But the difference with network marketing is there is no we don't care if you've got a PhD or you're a high school dropout like me. If you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to put in the time, you can get it. Whereas you can't say that's true about a lot of other business opportunities.
Do you know who Patrick Bet David is?
I do.
Yeah, I didn't know this, but he has a big insurance company, and apparently it was like a network marketing kind of style. And he did one of these like Jubilee, like 25 on one kind of debates. And this person was like really kind of grilling him, like, and saying, like, well, the average person at your company makes like, I don't know, like $200 or something like that. And like, how can you, and yet they had to pay like, I don't know, $500 or something to join or $600 to do their like insurance, like exam stuff. And they're like, well, how can you justify this? and basically, net people lose money doing this. And he was just like, yeah, like, first, I'm giving you a skill, insurance, you don't have to do it with me. And secondarily, like, yeah, like, not a lot of people are cut out for this. Like, that's not our fault that we're inviting people to have this opportunity and then they don't take it. Um, and that's true of everything. Like, doesn't matter if it's a network marketing thing or just insurance or real estate. Like, how many people do you know that got their real estate license and they never sold a house, or they sold one house and they're like, oh shit, this is actually kind of challenging. Like, this isn't for me. So that happens all the time. I think it's a good thing.
Every
Yeah,
industry, every industry.
I think it's a good thing. What I like is it gets a lot of people into business. A lot of people that you talk to in business, they'll go, I started with network marketing, or I did a network marketing thing, and I kind of was like, oh, I can be in business for myself.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just, like I say, you don't even have to be an entrepreneur because you don't have to rent a location, hire employees, invest in, a dry cleaner, or you want to do a simple, easy franchise, it's a couple $100,000. Uh,
Yeah,
Better ones are a couple $1 million, right?
yeah.
Somebody could join network marketing for $1,000 or less, and they really do have a possibility of creating a very nice 6 figure, even 7 figure a year residual income because of leverage. And listen, if you can sing like Lady Gaga, great, just sing. You got
Hmm,
leverage.
hmm.
If you can write like J.K. Rowling, great, just write books. You're going to have leverage. But if you don't have that kind of talent and you don't have those kind of platforms, well, a leverage sales, network marketing, party plan company, it'll give you a platform at least where you could unleash the power of leverage without having a huge investment or a lot of degrees or a lot of experience. And that's the benefit of it. For people like me, a dishwasher in a pancake house who was able to become wealthy.
Yeah, it's almost like entrepreneurship. I don't want to say dumbed down, but simplified in that, like,
Simplified.
you like your
This
books. I'm
is
sure it's just like, do these skills, do these activities, and like you will have success. Like, you don't even necessarily have to be great at them. If you can just do them and do them repeatedly, you'll probably find some amount of success.
Yeah, it's like, so I'm just finishing my 16th book. The working title is Millionaire in the Mirror, but that may change. Um, but I approach it the same way. Like, okay, what's the system? How do you the title, the working title is from the idea that, hey, that you can look in the mirror and there actually is a millionaire staring back at you.
Hmm.
How do you go from poverty consciousness to balling to prosperity consciousness? And I mean the holistic form, not just money, healthy, happy, prosperous.
Hmm.
Because like my coaching, I told you my Breakthrough You program has 3 levels, right? The first level is for people who just scuffling, they're just not making money. They just, because they've got limiting beliefs, right? They have poverty consciousness. The middle level is for people who are out there, they're getting after it, they have some success, but they can't break that $1 million a year income, let's say. So they do the alchemist level, which is the middle one. And then I have a top level called the anarchist level, right? And those people, they might make $20 million a year, they might make $60 million a year, but they're not happy because their marriage is in ruin. They
Hmm.
destroyed their relationships to get their business. We have to fix that. Or they're making 60 million a year, but they're 2 cheeseburgers away from a diabetic coma or a heart attack. What's the point of that, right? We got to fix that. So it's really got to be, so like the book is about how to become healthy, happy, and prosperous. And I basically try to take the same approach. Like, here's the mental models I use, here's the systems I use, here's how to create a daily routine that's good for your success. Here's how to nurture your body. Here's how to nurture your mind. Because again, I'm always going to default to systems because I think that's where the breakthroughs live.
Mm. So talk me through, Sunrider and Agile and all these until you kind of get to this point where you're like, I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna talk about what I've been able to do with these experiences.
So I guess it was 96 when I wrote the first book, and it was called How to Build a Multi-Level Money Machine.
I like it.
Yeah.
You said that was
And
1 million copies sold?
more than a million. That
That's
book has been translated into 23, 24, 25 different languages.
crazy.
Um, yeah. I mean, I can go to, well, I wouldn't go there today, but I can go to Russia and I'm going to sell out every opera house I want to do a seminar at. I could go to Ukraine, sell out every opera house I want to do a seminar at, because there's no copyright laws in those places like over in Asia, you know. So I have millions of copies of books that I never got a dime on, you know.
Right.
People just bootleg everything over, and Malaysia is the same way.
Hmm.
Korea is the same way. Korea was the first language actually that it was actually licensed, and I made money on for that book.
This may be a
But
stupid question, but is like network marketing really popular in all those countries, pretty much all over the world?
all over the world,
I guess.
Asia is huge for network marketing,
Interesting.
and Russia and Ukraine. This is pre-war. Remember, these are black market economies
Hmm.
because they're communistic, which doesn't work. Everybody's broke, everybody's corrupt, everything in the government is corrupt. So when you can join Herbalife or a New Skin or a company like that, and you can get their herbal tea and you can take it over to your aunt's house and bring her 2 boxes and she pays you for them, and you got cash money that the government can't tax and take from you and doesn't know about. There's network marketing is huge even today. Let me
Hmm.
tell you, I network marketing in Russia right now is exploding
Hmm.
because Putin is going broke trying to keep up the war with the Ukraine. He can no longer afford to pay those. He was given the big bonuses if you signed up as a soldier.
Hmm.
He can't make those anymore.
Mm.
So and the so now he's conscripting people, and the age is getting older and older. Economy's very tough for him because he's basically he's a crook. He's a mafia guy who happens to run a country. So the companies like network marketing, direct selling companies. I have a lot of contact. I used to have a team of 20,000 people in Russia alone. So I
Crazy.
have a lot of contacts there. And I can tell you the business is still going very strong there. Ukraine, which is with bombs dropping out of the sky, the business is doing very well there.
Wow, that's amazing. When you're writing that book, do you have any inclination that this is going to be a million copy plus book, or are you just like, I just want to
Of
share?
course I do, because I
Yeah.
just assume I did. I really did. I like, oh man, this is going to sell a million copies. It's going to be all over the world, because that's just how I think.
Mm.
I had no idea how hard it is to sell a million copies of a book.
It's hard
I
to
had
sell
no
50
idea.
copies of a book, man.
Yeah, it can be,
Yeah.
right? So, but I was just so dumb. I was too dumb to not to know any better. So of course it sold a million copies. You
So
know,
you have a publisher, like how did that work?
That first one I self-published
Okay.
here, but then I got an offer right away from a publisher in Korea. That was the first one
Mm.
of rights, and then you get a call, and then Germany came through, and then Japan came through, and then it just kept adding. So like even now, so I've gone everything. I've self-published my book, and I've been published by Random House, whatever they're called today. They're the
Hmm.
biggest publisher in the world, and everywhere in between. I've done it, all the way through.
So is life significantly different after this book, does 1 million copies, or is most of your income still derived from these various network marketing companies at that time?
Um, it was about 50-50 at that point.
Hmm.
I was doing well in the business, but I was also doing well as people like, because the book, I mean, no one had ever written a how-to book before.
Mm.
Everybody wrote the rah rah bullshit.
Yeah.
Believe, think positive. I did it. You can do it too. That's the whole book, right?
Hmm.
And nobody ever said, hey, here's how to meet people.
Yep.
Here's how you should start working. Here's how to make compelling invitations so people actually show up and look at the presentation. That was revolutionary. Nobody had ever done anything like that. So, and then, the book just took on a life of its own. And then everybody wanted to have me come speak to their convention or train their team or, get in a coaching program with me or whatever. And, it feeds success, feeds on success.
Mm. Yeah, I saw that you're in a speaking Hall of Fame. Is that right? What I read?
That is true.
Tell me about that. I'm sure that comes much later, but I, how do you
Yeah.
even become a member of this?
I think so. It's called the National Speakers Association.
Okay.
They're headquartered in Phoenix. Been around for 50 some years, I guess. And now there's like chapters in the UK and in Germany and in Malaysia and in Japan and in a lot of places around the world. And I don't know, at some point, maybe 40 years ago or something, they started a speaker hall of fame.
Mm.
And, Zig Ziglar and Norman Vincent Peale and Tony Robbins and Colin Powell. And there's, Og Mandino. I mean, there's an incredible membership in there. And
Mm.
they can induct up to 5 people a year. And I believe it was 2006 when I was inducted.
Mm. So, like through this process, how involved are you actually? Like, what, maybe this is a naive question, but like after you set these systems up, how involved do you have to be? Like you said, you have 200,000 people involved in or had um, involved in one network. Like, what does the day to day look like on that network? Are you doing a lot, or are you just kind of like they're all autonomous, sort of? So I don't really need to do a ton with them.
With that, I can run a network of that size. Back then, I took about 30 hours a week to run that because, again, I'm very systematized. If I build that team today, I believe I could probably do it in 20 hours a week or less
Mm.
because of AI and because of what I've learned and how I've gotten better. And again, just what I've learned, the stuff I can do with AI is astounding.
You probably also have a lot of material already that is still good for everyone. It's like, hey, I wrote 16 books. Like, if you need information, resource with those.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that's what's so helpful for me for AI. Like I've created a co-CEO for myself that
Mm,
I want to run ideas by that thinks like I think and can write the way I write. And a big reason is because I had all these books which I could train it with. So it really does know my thinking process. And I can say, I want, create a right. Here's this podcast I did. Well, that one would be a separate app anyway. So let's not use the podcast as an
mm,
example. I can take a book and I can say, all right, here's my first draft of my new book. Give me some suggestions for some cover copy for the back cover and for the dust jacket. And it will write like me because I've trained it. I've written more than 10,000 blog posts, hundreds of
wow.
newsletter articles. So I can feed those in. Like I'm literally just launching a beta group now for network marketers it's called Duplication OS, which is an operating system for duplication
Mm,
that leaders of companies can get their team on. And we're just actually launching that literally this month. And the beta group gets first access because they're going to be helping with the training. But I've trained it with all of this content I've created over the years.
mm. So you also work with businesses outside of the network marketing field. Do you feel like there's serious overlaps, or are there big differences that you got to go, well, that works here, but it doesn't work there?
I think everything works everywhere. I never done, like they say, are you B to C or B to B? I say, I don't do any of that shit. I do C to C, consumer to consumer, P to P, people to people.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter to me, I think, whether someone is the CEO of a Fortune 50 company, or it's a guy who has two dry cleaners in Dallas, or it's a network marketing guy in Arizona, or it's a author in Boston, or a whatever in Manila. People have the same basic wants and needs, right? We all want security. We want, the things that humans want. And like if you're creating marketing, that it's universal. It's a universal language. Now, yeah, we're going to learn, okay, what is the if Kamal came to me and said, hey, I want you to help me sell this book, I'd say,
Hmm.
okay, what is the benefit to this book to the reader? If Zephyr Hills comes to me and wants me to sell this water, I'm going to say, okay, what is the benefit to, if Toner comes to me and wants me to sell this microphone, I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to say, okay, what are the features? What are the benefits? I want to lead with the benefits, substantiate with the features. How can I show this in action? How can I touch them on an emotional level where they will connect? Because that's the ultimate. If you look at like branding, the ultimate branding of Nike or Cirque du Soleil, or brands like that, it's not even about the company. It's about how they make you feel about the company. And even more importantly, how they make you feel about yourself.
Mm.
Like, how many, you go out on the street and there's this 300-pound guy wearing his Just Do It t shirt. You look at him, you say, that fucking guy hasn't been in a gym in 25 years. But to him, he's an athlete because
Right.
he's got a Nike shirt on. Nike makes him feel that Just Do It. And I don't want to demean him and throw that person under the bus, right? He really could be a 300-pound guy who used to be 380 pounds. And
Hmm.
now he's down 80 pounds because he's in the gym and he's just doing it, right? You know what I mean? But I mean, Nike creates that affiliation that you want to be part of.
Hmm.
Cirque du Soleil, I'm a Cirque junkie. I have seen every single Cirque show they have in the world. I mean, I'll get on a plane and fly to Spain if they launch a new show there because I love Cirque shows, right?
Mm.
And I got the hats and the hoodies and the t-shirts and the, music tracks and all that stuff, right? Because to me, they are an example of the human spirit, of what you can do when you're willing to risk it all and try to become the very best in the world at what you do, right? So that's branding, right? So it doesn't matter what the product or service is, I'm still going to look to go down that same pathway and say, hey, what's the emotional connection that this brand has with the people who could really work with it?
I see, like in your books, you talk a lot about like programming. Maybe talk to me about how you kind of try to coach people up on the way that their brain is programmed, and kind of maybe rewiring it to think about life in terms of possibility.
All right, anyone who is serious about this, my book, Radical Rebirth, must read. Radical Rebirth. In there, I'm going to break life down into what I think are the six most important categories that we develop beliefs, right? Health and wellness, God and religion, marriage and relationships, money and success, sex and sexuality. Right? So you got these main categories,
Mm.
and I'm going to say you were programmed with core foundational beliefs in every one of them, probably before you were 10 years old, probably before you were 8 years old. If your mother cheated on your father, or your father was abusive to your mother and they were arguing in the house all the time, you have a core foundational belief about marriage and relationships before you're 6.
Hmm.
And then you're going to go out and at 40 years old, you're going to be in marriage and you're going to blow up your marriage because you're repeating the same beliefs that you got, watching your parents. And you never went and questioned those beliefs. And so, like for money and success, it's so easy, right? I'm just going to say, I know what you're programmed with. You're programmed that money is bad, rich people are evil, it's somehow spiritual or honorable or benefit, whatever, to be poor. You're programmed that to be a good, successful, business person, you have to be a bad parent. And you're programmed that if you run a company, you're only successful if you exploit the workers and pillage the environment. And if I go out from here and I grab the next 100 people at the bus stop, 98 or 99 of them are going to have that programming. And they never questioned it
Mm.
because they don't know their subconscious beliefs that they don't even know they have. So if I say, you realize you're self sabotaging yourself, they'd say, are you crazy? No, I hate being poor. I want to make money. That's why I got my degree. That's why I applied for this job. Right. But you still have that core programming that you don't even know is there that says, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to become one of those evil, mean, nasty, rich people.
Hmm.
So you better self sabotage right now so your friends and family still love you and you're still a good person and you're still going to get into heaven or you're still going to get into the reincarnation or the afterlife or whatever your religious belief is. It's so much program. And what I do in that book is I take the programming in that you get from government, organized religion, the education system, and then what I call the data sphere: TV, movie, radio, podcasts, social media, all of that, operas, plays,
Hmm.
throw it all in there. And then it doesn't matter what generation you are. I can tell you, okay, let's talk about what were the hit movies of your day? What were the hit TV shows? Now let's look at the subliminal programming in those shows about money and wealthy people.
Mm.
So if you're old like me, right, you're going to say, well, I grew up watching the Beverly Hillbillies and MASH and, Gilligan's Island. Okay. How were rich people portrayed in those shows? You
Hmm.
know, what happened on Gilligan? We had Thurston Howell the third. Was there always one guy? And we had the cool guys, Hawkeye and MASH in the tent, right? But there was always a third guy in the tent who was a rich guy
Hmm.
who was again with a pretentious name and they listen to opera and they act stupid and everything. And then I can, whatever your relation, I can go to Dallas and Dynasty, and then we can go all the way up to today to Succession
Yeah.
and Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. And you know and you just say, wow, look at how wealthy people are portrayed.
Well, I mean, look at like a Christmas a Christmas Carol.
Yeah,
Ebenezer Scrooge.
exactly.
Scrooge was the
Oh my
successful
god.
old mean guy, and then
And it is the single most successful Christmas story of all time. Why? Because see, the more you like I always said, the most evil movie in the history of the world was Titanic,
mm,
because of the way it programmed you against rich people.
mm,
And the more you love that movie, the more insidious negative programming you have. Now, Cameron outdid himself because he created an even more evil movie, which was Avatar,
yep, we're pillaging the planet.
pillaging the planet.
Yeah.
If you remember, the protagonist is actually in a wheelchair when he's not in the
Yep.
Avatar
Yep.
body, and they tell him, and he could be walking, but he doesn't have enough money. And they
Ah.
just tell him, yeah, you help us go rape, pillage, and plunder these indigenous people, and we'll give you your legs back.
Mm.
I mean, so and then Avatar the sequel, and then Alien and Aliens. Now Aliens is a TV show
Yep,
on
yep.
FX, which if you love sci-fi like I do, it's an incredible show.
I'm watching. Yep, and the
Okay,
corporations run the world, and
five
there's
corporations run the, and they're not even billionaires anymore. They have to be trillionaires,
yep,
right?
yep,
So we have the five trillionaires who control the world, and they don't give a fuck who gets killed by these animals and these creatures. It's all about the money. So you say, what is the subliminal programming of that?
yeah.
So yeah, I do a lot of work about memes and mind
Well, when
viruses.
I was a kid, it was Scrooge McDuck. I don't know if you know Scrooge McDuck. You know the Ducktales, and then
Yeah.
Mr. Burns of The Simpsons. You know.
Mr. Burns up the perfect example. Mr.
Yep.
Burns of The
He
Simpsons.
owns the nuclear power plant. He doesn't care about the waste product. He's just trying to make the money. He's
Yeah.
there. Excellent, excellent. You know. Yeah, but you're right. That and I think most people probably don't think about that. And when people talk to me about business, like they are very negative about it. They just seem to think like, "Oh, you've been successful. That's great." But there's this like the undercurrent where it's like, maybe you've had to do some unsavory things to be successful." And you know, I
They
just
don't they don't even know they're doing that.
I,
They're programmed.
I
They
give
are
this
literally
example.
programmed.
I'm like, okay, so let's say a guy down the street starts a gym and people pay him $50 and they come into the gym and they get healthy. Who is taken advantage of there? Like, where is the advantage taking happening? Like, guy,
Oh, don't
you're
you know? Everybody went on New Year's Day. 100 people signed up. They went 2 times and they never went back. He took their money. It's the same argument of network marketing.
yeah,
You know how many people bought memberships in the gym and then they never used them? Oh, really? So it's the gym owner's fault?
yeah,
Because some guy went and bought a $200 membership and then was too lazy to get his ass out of bed in the morning and go use it. That's the gym owner's fault.
yeah. My girlfriend, she's an amazing girl, but she's in the medical field, so business just like it's just not for her. And she's like, I don't understand why the insurance company keeps my money if I don't file claims. And I'm like, because they wouldn't be able to stay in business if they didn't keep your money. But like what you're saying fundamentally makes sense, but it just can't go like that. But yeah, I think you're totally right. There's a lot of programming. So you're kind of just talking people through like, let me show you some of these programs that you're subconsciously running. And if you could just get rid of them, or maybe even just hear a counter example or two, like, hey, this
Right.
guy
No,
built,
what it's about
Tom
is
shoes, maybe.
I think they lose 80% of their power once you recognize them.
Mm,
Because then you realize, wow, this is the subliminal message I was getting programmed with. And then I will be honest with you, if you once you read Radical Rebirth, my book on that, it'll ruin every movie, book, everything you ever read for the rest of your life. Because you're gonna go on you're gonna watch Law and Order, and you're gonna say, and you're gonna know exactly who the killer is 4 minutes into the show, just based on the tropes and the memes.
hmm
Every movie you're going to go to Jurassic Park, and you're going to say, well, no, of course those kids aren't going to get eaten up. We got to sell action figures.
mm,
But find me the guy in the movie who's the richest guy. That's the guy the dinosaur's going to eat. Number one, find me the guy with the most guns. He's going to die. And then find me the guy with the most money. He's going to die. But everybody else is going to be okay. So even if you don't, you know, it's just, like Jaws is the same movie as Alien. Alien is the same movie as Avatar.
mm,
Avatar is the same movie as whatever, which is, what was Jaws? Well, the shark is eating all the people, but the rich people who run the town and make money on tourism, they don't want to lose the summer, sales. So
mm,
we're going to keep the shark underwater. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to scare people,
mm.
right? And then people just keep getting eaten because the rich people want to make more money. And then we get to Alien and Aliens and what happened? Well, people keep dying, but that's because the evil, greedy corporation wants to make more money with these creatures. And, it's the same plot. It's just different creatures, different whatever, but it's really the same basic script.
Mm. So you're 15, 16 books in. Are there other powerful messages that you feel like come up over and over again in those works?
Yeah, that's really like if you look at God and religion, that's some of the strongest programming in the world,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
So, how are most religions operate? They're kind of like a cosmic frequent flyer program,
Okay.
like you get from Delta or American, but this one you get from God. And it says if you collect enough points while you're here, then you can win the free trip to paradise,
Right.
in the afterlife.
Right.
But to get the points, you got to prostrate yourself before and beg and rub the rosary beads and pray to Mecca, and beg for forgiveness and subjugate yourself and fear God. And
It's all
if
gamification, right? You got to get the points to go to the
you
next
got to get the
level.
points. And it's, I took like a 2 year sabbatical and I studied all the major religions of the world. And I think the core message of them is good. I think the core message is love,
Mm,
but they get hijacked by organized religion.
mm-hmm.
So then, like, if you believe that you've been reincarnated 118 times, but you're not going to find nirvana until you've been reincarnated 142 times, what is the chance you're going to allow yourself to be happy this lifetime?
Mm.
If you were a Christian and you were raised in a Catholic school and the nuns were rapping your knuckles with the ruler and say you were born a sorry sinner and you better beg for forgiveness, and if God forgives you, then you're going to go into the pearly gates. What are the odds you're going to let yourself be happy here? If you think you're been reincarnated this life to pay penance because you were a camel thief in the last life, what's the odds you're going to let yourself be happy? So everybody's playing the frequent flyer program, and it's just insidious programming to teach you that you're not worthy.
Mm.
And that's why another reason why people self sabotage themselves,
Mm.
because they think that the good stuff is only supposed to come in the afterlife.
Mm. Well, that's like Christianity 101, right? Everyone sins. There's no one who doesn't have any sins. Basically, one sin is as great as a million sins. So even if you've lived a pretty good life, it's still not quite good enough, right? And do you
You're right. The
is
concept, they call it original sin.
Mhm.
You are born with original sin.
Right?
Now, I actually was a lay minister at the Unity Church here in Miami for about 20 years.
Mm.
And, I have a different interpretation. I believe in original blessing.
Mm.
And I don't think that I was born with original sin and have to pay penance for that. Because I say, if there was a God who loved me, why would he saddle me with that guilt and that punishment and that negativity? Just doesn't make sense to me.
Hmm. Interesting. What are the other things that you feel like people have been programmed to think that are not helping them lead to success?
Well, what's the big crisis issue of the day? Transgender people, sexuality.
Masculinity, you know?
Right. So if we actually looked at science, we would see no, it's not two different chromosomes. There's like 19 different chromosomes from all through the spectrum. And there are intersex people.
Mhm.
There are people who are born bisexual. There are people born in a man's body that really do identify as a woman, and vice versa. Um, so that, but if you're programmed in a fundamentalist religion that no, there is boys and there are girls and everyone else should be killed because they're an aberration or they're a mistake or they're whatever, I just don't think that's a belief that's very prosperous.
Mm.
Where the science shows that no, there's people born with sex organs for both sexes. By the way, called intersex people. There's a percentage of people born that way. It's usually corrected in a delivery. The doctor makes a decision. Well, they look more boy than girl or more girl than boy, so this is the organ we're going to lop off.
Hmm.
That's reality. That's evolution. That's nature. That's how whatever force who created us. So to have a belief that no, there's only boys and they play with trucks and there's only girls and they dance ballerina, that's not a really prosperous view of the world.
Mm. Well, I think you're kind of also hitting on whatever your source of information is. People kind of just get bound into that, and you may think, "Oh, I've really thought through this idea," but like just like you were talking about with, "Oh, rich people are bad." It's like, well, where did you get that idea? And it's like, well, the Amazon drivers, they have to like pee in bottles, and you're like, okay, well, there's a lot of people at Amazon who are choosing to work there, and executives making millions of dollars, and they have a million plus employees, so it can't be that bad, right? Um, so where did you get this idea that like all businesses are horrible? And it's like,
And
well,
they
maybe
got
I
it.
maybe I don't even know where I got it.
They don't know because they got that belief before they were 8.
Oh,
And unless they read my Radical Rebirth book or one of my blog posts or been to my podcast, nobody's ever challenged them and said, hey, here's the 6 main areas in life. Why don't you do some critical thinking on what are your core foundational beliefs in that area? Like if you grow up in my family, let me tell you what your beliefs on health and wellness are. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and you should have Cocoa Puffs and Crispy Creats and Captain Crunch and whatever, frosted mini wheats. And you should get 5 pounds extra when you're in your 20s, and 10 pounds extra when you're in your 30s, and 15 in your 40s, and 20 in your 50s, and da da da. And by the time you're 60, you should be taking somewhere between 10 to 15 prescription medicines a day. By the time you're 70, you should be taking between 15 and 25 prescription medicines a day. That's my family's belief on wellness for generations because it's just how it's what it is. This is what we saw. This is what our grandparents modeled for us. And unless you get some kind of counter programming that says, hey, why don't you question? I'm 66 years old. I was just in the World Series with my softball team a month and a half ago,
there you
playing
go.
for another championship, right? Because I didn't believe that bullshit of, wow, at 66, I should have a walker with 2 tennis balls on it. And, I should need help to tie my shoes and I should be 50 pounds overweight and I should be, 10 minutes away from diabetic coma, whatever.
Hmm.
I think the beliefs that a lot of people have about health and wellness are not very good for them.
Mm. Totally am with you, Randy. Um, Randy, is there anything else that we didn't cover? I know you've done so many things, spoken on so many topics, written a ton of books, and
I would just say to people, question the premise. Somebody comes to you with something, question the premise. And then question your own premises.
mm,
That's the whole point of my work, of Breakthrough You, of my books, of my podcast. The whole work is I want you to look at your life and I want you to think about it in ways you've never thought about it before.
mm,
And it doesn't matter if you agree with me, it doesn't matter if you think I'm full of shit. Either way is fine. I just ask you to ask the questions and be skeptical, but allow me to get up in your grill and challenge you and say, okay, so I know people are listening or watching this. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I read in the Bible, it says,
yeah, yeah,
Adam and Eve. And okay, great. But why don't you just, if for sure your belief is, yours is right, then it will survive a healthy skepticism.
Mm.
So maybe question the premise, be open to the idea that and if, by the way, if you are healthy, happy, and prosperous, then I think you probably have great core foundational beliefs and they're serving you. And if you're not healthy, happy, and prosperous, then your beliefs are probably not serving you.
Mm. I like it. Awesome. Randy, where can people find your stuff, your podcast, your books, your website?
Okay, so randygage.com, that's kind of the Starfleet command site. Breakthrough U program's on there. Podcast has links on there. The blog is on there. So, all the books are on Amazon.
Yep, I'm on it. I'm on Radical Rebirth right now. Positive reviews and only $5 on Kindle. That's a deal.
Such a deal.
Yeah, maybe not for you, right? It's better than all those books that are bootlegged out in Russia, right?
Yeah,
And,
right.
and
Exactly.
your podcast, I'm not sure if I heard that.
Power Prosperity Podcast.
Beautiful. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Randy. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Alexander. Great to be on the show.
Yeah, man. You as well.